All right, and we have PowerPoint presentation and everything. Look at us.
Extremely.
What is this?
They go all the way back to.
Allison?
Yes,
Okay,
that's for the Pledge of Allegiance.
Yeah,
So we have to
alright.
close down.
okay. Pledge allegiance.
Here, I will work it for you.
You knew that.
Mr. Chairman, whenever the meeting starts, the flag for the department is at the 15th Street Training Facility, so we have a flag on the screen to fill in for its stand.
Sounds good.
Is everyone ready? All the movement has stopped, so I will assume. Call the Lancaster County Planning Commission to order. And I'll ask the clerk, if she will, to call the roll.
Okay, Chairman Dietz,
Here.
Jason Carver, Cavalier,
Here.
Yukima Curitan.
Yukima Curitan,
Here.
Judiana Tinklenberg,
Here.
Michelle Richards,
Here.
Sheila Henson,
Here.
Alan Patterson,
Here.
and we're all here.
And if the clerk will make a record that the planning commission quorum is available and the meeting will continue as posted. And make also a note that the meeting was posted for the required length of time in the lobby of the county administration building and on the county website. And the news media was informed of the time and place of the meeting. Thank all of you for being here. For once, I can actually sit here and say that the Planning Commission has filled every seat. Been a while, but it has happened, and everybody is sitting in a seat that corresponds to the district that they actually live in. So at this time, if you'll give me just a couple of seconds. Alan Patterson has been with us for a long time. He was the original district representative for District 1. During the last census, his district changed, or I'm not going to tell you he moved. His property moved into a different district. And until today, he has been serving out of his own district. We appreciate the work that Alan has done in the past. We look forward to working with him in the future. We have two new members, Jason Cavalier, who now is the district representative for District 1 that Mr. Patterson occupied for so long. And we welcome you. Thank you. We're looking forward to working with you also.
Thank you, sir.
Melissa Richards.
Michelle.
I'm sorry, Michelle. We all call her Shelley.
You can call me Shelley, I don't care.
And she is the district representative for District 5. And we appreciate them stepping up, taking these seats. We look forward to working with you continuously, we hope. And the public, bless you. Without you, why are we here? Thank you for being here. At this time, I will ask every one of us, if we will, to stand, and Jennifer will lead us in the Pledge of Allegiance and opening prayer.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Creator God, thank you for bringing us together to do your work in the world. Please guide the decisions and actions made tonight so that all may join together in unity to promote Lancaster County. In your name, amen.
Amen.
There's a seat down here, if you want to put it out.
get to.
This being the first meeting of the new fiscal year, by state law is a requirement that the planning commission elect officers for the new ensuing year. We will be electing a chairman, vice chairman, and the chairman normally has an opportunity to select a clerk. We normally will use someone that's familiar for the clerk. And Miss Jennifer has done a super job.
Well, I'm going to defer to Amy Scholler, our new administrative assistant. She will be taking that over. So you can recommend her as clerk. I will assist when needed. But.
All right, at this time, I'm going to step up and ask Miss Allison Harden, the Director of Building Services for Lancaster County, to take charge of this meeting, to handle it as she sees fit, and to proceed with the election of officers for the new year.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you, Ms.
For the benefit of the new members, the process is that we open the floor for nominations for chairperson. If the spirit moves you, you can nominate someone. Once you nominate someone, we'll ask that person if they are willing to serve as chair if they are elected. They will have the opportunity to say yes or no. We'll get a second to that motion or to that nomination. We'll then open up the floor or keep the floor open until all nominations have been provided and seconded and accepted by the nominee. When there are no more nominations, I'll ask for a motion to close the floor to nominations, and that will require a second, and if that passes, then we go forward to elections. If there is more than one person, we can go by ballot election or we can go by hand election, showing hands. It will be up to the Planning Commission to decide how they want to do that. At the time that we have, if there is only one person nominated, once the nominations are closed, that person is declared chair by acclamation. If there are two people, then we have a vote, and the one with the highest number of members voting for them is the winner. The people that are limited to vote are just the Planning Commissioner members, so there'll be 7 votes. We do the same process for the vice chair. We repeat everything that I just said, except this time for vice chair. Vice chair, the chairperson's responsibility is to serve as leadership for the meeting, to run the meetings, to follow the processes, to sign documents on behalf of the Planning Commission. The vice chair is to act instead of the chair when the chair can't do their activities or if they have to recuse themselves. Anybody have any questions before we move forward? All right. So I will open up the floor to nominations for the chairperson of Lancaster County Planning Commission.
I'd like to nominate Charles Dees.
Okay, we have Ms. Henson nominating Charles Dees. Mr. Dees, if elected, are you willing to serve?
I will.
Okay, is there a second? Ms. Henson has a motion on the floor, and we need a second to make that nomination official.
Second.
Okay. Mr. Cavalier. All right. So we have one nomination for chair. Are there any other nominations?
I'd like to nominate Alan Patterson,
Okay.
if he's willing to serve.
Ms. Curtin nominates Mr. Patterson. Mr. Patterson, if you are elected, are you willing to serve?
Yes.
Okay. We need a second?
I'll second.
Okay, Ms. Tinklenberg, seconds. Are there any other nominations from the floor? There being none, I'd like to ask for a motion to close the nominations.
I'll make a motion to close the nomination.
I'll second it.
Okay, thank you. So a motion by Ms. Carrington and second by Ms. Henson to close the nominations. All in favor? Say aye.
Aye.
All opposed? All right, the floor for nominations is closed. Now, we have an opportunity to do a vote by show of hands or by secret ballot. Would you like
Show of hands.
show of hands? Anybody opposed to show of hands? Okay, then I'll call for Mr. Dees votes first and Mr. Patterson's votes second, because they are the order in which they were nominated. So I need a vote for, now, if you are interested, if you are willing to have Mr. Dees as chairperson for the coming fiscal year, please raise your right hand. Okay, we have, and please hold them up so we can get a record. Okay, and votes for Mr. Patterson? All right. With a 4-3 vote, Mr. Dees is chairperson, has been elected chairperson, duly elected. Mr. Dees, just to remind you, you are taking this on for another year, right?
Yes.
Okay. If at any chance, if at any point you have a problem with that office, thank you, my brain can't work at 3 things at once, then you'll have a vice chair.
All right.
So, with the business of the chairperson settled, I'd like a nomination for the office of vice chair, please.
I'd like to nominate Alan.
Okay, Ms. Henson nominates Mr. Patterson. Mr. Patterson, if elected, are you willing to serve as vice chair?
Yes.
Okay.
I'll
Thank you.
second.
Okay, Ms. Puritan seconds. All right. Any other nominations from the floor?
I'd like to nominate Yoki Curitan.
Okay, Ms. Curitan, if you are elected, would you be willing to serve as vice chair?
I am.
Okay. And that needs a second, please.
I'll second it.
Okay, thank you, Ms. Patterson. All right, so we have 2 positions. Any other nominations from the floor for vice chair? Okay, there being none, can I have a motion, please, to close the floor for nominations?
I'll make a motion to close.
Thank you, ma'am. Any seconds?
Second.
Okay, Mr. Dees, thank you very much. All in favor of closing the floor for nominations? Say aye.
Aye.
And opposed? Okay, motions are closed. We have now a position to vote for vice chair. I'll go in the order that they were nominated. If you are voting for Mr. Patterson, you'll raise your right hand first, and then we'll talk about Ms. Curitan and take the votes there. Please do hold your hand up so we can get it. For Mr. Patterson, for vice chair, may I have votes up by the right hand? All right. Have y'all got that down there?
Is it 4?
5.
Oh, there was 5 for Patterson?
Mhm.
Okay.
And now votes for Ms. Curitan.
So 3, right?
2.
Oh, 2.
Two.
Okay, sorry. 2 for...
With a vote of 5-2, Mr. Patterson, congratulations, you are Vice Chair of the Planning Commission. I'd like to have a motion to go out of elections and to turn the floor back over to Chairman Dees.
So moved.
And second?
I'll second.
Thank you. All in favor of going out of elections and returning to regular business?
Aye.
All opposed? I'm out, thank you.
One item now. I will ask Amy if she will stand and promise me that you'll serve as my clerk.
Yes, I promise to serve.
Thank you.
That was good. You're welcome.
I knew she would do that.
Yeah, we
Thank
have
you
words
so
if
much.
not.
Thank you, Ms. Harden.
You're welcome, sir, thank
You
you.
do a good job at that. I appreciate your help. Thank all of you for the confidence that you've shown in me for another year, that I can fulfill your expectations. Thank you, Mr. Patterson, for being available if and when I might need you, which could be any time, or it may not be at all. So you will have notice in plenty of time. So.
And you'll also have the support of staff in the absence of the chairman. Yeah, we won't hold back.
Right. And at this point, we have reached the approval of the agenda for tonight's meeting. Do I hear a motion?
Make a motion.
Ms. Hanson?
Yes.
Second?
I'll second.
And second. Cavalier? All in favor? citizens' comments.
We have the sign-in sheets. that we brought in.
I have one in my hand. And no one has signed to speak at this point. So we will move on from that.
Yeah, that's just from Virginia.
The next item is the approval of the agenda.
The minutes.
Agenda. I mean, the minutes, I'm sorry.
Mr. Chair.
Got agenda on mine.
Mr. Chair.
Yes,
I
ma'am.
have a question. I know that our meeting minutes, we've been working on how we're structuring those, and I appreciated seeing a little bit more detail. I was wondering if we could add something under section C, the arches. There was a conversation relating to alleviating traffic on 521 and having connections from the road that connects Publix to the YMCA and future Target, and then forcing that connection to Costco would help alleviate a lot of traffic on 521. And that was left out or omitted. So can we please add that?
What page?
Page 9, that was omitted.
Do you want us to go back and listen to the tape and provide a summary on that? Or would you like to continue the minutes to the next meeting and have us bring to you what we would type up for that before you approve the minutes?
Or do we want to consider it a Scrivener's area?
I mean, as long as it's added, I trust the revision from staff.
Then that's fine. Then I think the appropriate measure would be to accept the minutes with an amendment.
Okay.
Discussing that, and we'll send you a copy of how we put it in.
So I make a motion to accept
The
with the amendment.
With the amendment that you're discussing, yes, ma'am.
Okay, so I make a motion to amend the minutes to include the revision on section C about alleviating traffic off 521 and the connection between Target and Costco.
In section E?
C, under the arches.
C, section C. Okay.
Thank you, Alex.
I remember the discussion.
You have a second?
I'll second it.
A second. Richard. All in favor to approve with the amendment?
I'm sorry, Mr. Chair. I don't have who made the motion. Is that Judeanne Tingleberg?
Yes, Ms. Tinkleberg.
Okay, and who was the second?
Second, Ms.
Ms.
Richards.
Richards.
Ms. Richardson, sorry.
Okay. We were frantically making notes over here, so.
You're good, sorry. We gave you a mouthful.
Got it? Mm-hmm. All right. We have a motion to approve the minutes with the amendment to section C as stated.
I'll make a motion. I'll
I
second.
have a motion and a second. All right,
Need a vote?
Yeah.
You did that?
all in favor? 6, all opposed?
I wasn't here.
Okay. See, right. Very well. All right, the next item on the public forum is rezoning 2024-1081 Lopez High Point Circle. And that
No,
is
I'm gonna make you dance for me.
Matthew.
Okay, we're taking new technology. Here we go. So starting off with the overview for this rezoning, so it's located at the corner of High Point Circle. The applicant owner is Sal Lopez Jr. The intent is to divide the parcel into 5 total parcels, then build homes on the new 4 vacant lots. The current zoning is MH and the proposed is medium density residential. For the new comprehensive plan, the future land use category is neighborhood. On the left-hand side of the screen, you can see the zoning of the area. The yellow is medium density residential. The gray color is MH, and then there's commercial zoning along the corridor there.
Hey Matt, what does MH stand for?
Manufactured housing,
And what does MDR stand for?
medium density residential.
Thank you.
Welcome. So here are 2 location photos of the site, both facing off of High Point Circle. It's at a crux in the road. Now looking at the parcel background, the existing 1.53 acre parcel has 1 existing residence, which is 1890 High Point Circle. Although zoned MH manufactured housing, there is no manufactured homes on the property. And when it comes to traffic, the closest traffic count stations were located on Great Falls Highway and on Airport Road. And on the right-hand side is a chart taken from that database, and you can see that traffic has gone up since 2022, with the most recent counts in 2023. Now looking at schools, the 3 schools that would be affected in this area are Brooklyn Elementary, South Middle, and Lancaster High School. On the left-hand side of the screen towards the bottom, those are those 3 outlined in yellow on the left-hand side of the screen. And with the most recent figures that the school district has given us, all of these schools do have capacity.
Mr. Chair,
Yes.
Commissioners, you should have this copy. It's a little easier to read.
Yeah.
I provided that for you.
And if you want to hold on to that copy, we'll refer to that in the future for other reports. Because I think the reports are issued once a year or once every time they update their plan.
It was in your packet. You should have received it with your packet.
It's folded over, so if you're looking.
There you go.
Yeah.
Got it,
So
thanks.
Thanks, Jennifer.
Well, everybody's eyes just went with that
Yeah.
on the
Yeah.
screen.
Okay, moving forward, looking at the zoning and comprehensive plan, the subject parcel is surrounded by residential and institutional uses. The proposed medium density residential is located directly across the street from the parcel. Subject parcel is designated as the neighborhood future land use category according to the comprehensive plan. And this rezoning does align with goal G, Greater Lancaster 1.4 listed in the comprehensive plan, which encourages renovations, redevelopment of existing housing in neighborhoods where infrastructure already exists, housing stock needs to be improved or made code compliant. So this proposal is consistent with the comprehensive plan, and that's a snippet of the future land use map on the left-hand side of the screen with the subject parcel outlined in red. And then the bottom of the slide is the surrounding zoning, so MH to the north, MDR to the south, MH and MDR to the east, and MDR and institutional to the east. So staff recommends approval of this request to rezone 1.53 acres located at the corner of High Point Circle and going from MH to MDR. I'm available for questions, and the applicant is here as well.
Any questions for the staff?
Mr. Chairman.
Mr. Patterson?
Matthew, in the staff report, it's mentioned in here that this would be categorized as part of a minor subdivision.
Yes.
Does that mean that this would be a minor subdivision?
No, so this is the rezoning, and after that, then the applicant, which already has had a survey drawn up, would submit that to us for the minor subdivision process to be reviewed.
So, that's my understanding, and maybe be incorrect, but
Yeah.
it's my understanding that in order to do a minor subdivision, there was a minimum acreage requirement? Is that not
Yes.
accurate?
Yeah,
So the minor subdivision, I review all the minor subs, so I'll
Yes.
take that question. Minor subdivision process is the simple process for dividing a parcel of land.
Yep.
As long as it meets lot standards for lot width, minimum acreage, and all the other standards in the UDO, then it is approved. We have seen it, we have not yet approved it, we can't approve it until it's rezoned.
Okay,
The maximum number of lots I think he's gonna do is 4.
yeah, 4 new ones.
Yeah,
yeah.
and
I
minimum
I thought
lot
there was a minimum for, in order to be considered a minor subdivision, it was like 10
has to be,
minimum.
has to be 5 lots or fewer.
Okay.
And they have to, each lot has to meet the lot size requirements for that zoning district. So if it's changed to MDR, each of the lots will be at minimum 10,000 square feet.
Okay. Another question. So MDR, the density for MDR is 2.5 acres, is that correct? If my math is correct, if this 1.53 acres is divided into 5 total lots, then that puts it at 3.33 units per acre?
That metric only applies to major subdivisions, not individual lots in minor subdivision, under the minor subdivision process.
So MDR doesn't mean 2.5
In
units
a
per
major
acre?
subdivision, that is the metric that the designers have to use, but that is not the case with minor subdivision process.
Are we sure about that? Okay, I'm just,
No,
it just seems very
For minor
complicated.
subdivision process, if
there are really no
all of
rules?
as long as there's 5 lots or fewer,
Yep.
and they all meet the lot requirements, and there's no other restriction on it, for instance, that it's been divided multiple times prior into smaller lots, it's a different section of the UDO. It's not subject to the standards for major subdivision. The 2.5 metric is for major subdivisions.
Okay.
Anyone else? Okay, is the applicant here? Do you have anything you'd like to offer, sir? Please stand, state your name and address for the record.
Saul Lopez. I live in Monroe, North Carolina. Address 3223 Shelby Drive. That's Monroe, North Carolina 28110. Thank you.
Do you have anything you'd like to offer to this?
Not at the moment. Not at the moment.
Okay.
may I
Thank you.
add a comment to the previous discussion we had?
Please.
Regardless of the application of the density requirements, the 2.5 to 1.5, at the time that this comes forward for subdivision, that application will be spelled out in the application, or in the staff report for you. They will only be allowed to apply for what meets the code at that time. So while the maximum density on the chart may be 2.5 units per acre, not many subdivisions actually make it to 2.5 units per acre because of the requirement for infrastructure, open space, and the like.
Right.
The rezoning is based on, is this a good fit for this neighborhood?
Right.
We've identified that it meets the comprehensive plan goal of renovating areas that need to be renovated or infill development.
Right.
When it comes back to you for a subdivision, we'll have that answer spelled out with chapter and verse.
Okay.
Only if it comes back as a major subdivision.
If it comes back as a
Minor subdivisions are not
major,
reviewed
right.
by the planning commission.
Right. Okay, at this time, I'll call this into public hearing. No one has signed to speak to this, so we will consider ourselves out of public hearing on this matter. Commissioners, you have before you RZ 2024-1081 Lopez High Point Circle. Do I hear a motion?
Make a motion to approve.
Have a motion to approve from Ms. Henson. Do I have a second to bring it to the floor?
I second it.
And a second from Ms. Richards. Any discussion?
Okay, I have another question.
Mr. Patterson?
So is this of any relevance for us?
So that's his proposal, but that has not been submitted to staff to officially review.
Yeah,
Okay.
that's just a proposal. That particular plat would not be approved because it's got one too many lots.
And
But
we-
that is the
Right.
idea of what he wants to do.
And we've confirmed that with the applicant, we let him know that.
Okay.
Mr. Chair, may I clarify something? One
Sure.
moment, please. With the rezoning request, the site plans are just kind of as an idea to give you something of what they may want to do. A lot of people, because getting an engineer, getting all of the requirements to actually do a formal plat is very expensive.
Right.
And they're not gonna do that until after the rezoning because they don't wanna spend the money for something that's not a guarantee.
Right.
So basically, when you do a rezoning request, the questions you ask is, does it fit the other properties in the area? Does it fit the comp plan? Does it fit those areas? What they're gonna build on it doesn't necessarily pertain at the rezoning level.
Right.
Because there's a whole set of new requirements and things that go once it is rezoned. So this, when you look at a rezoning, that is more of a focus. Those are the things you look at more so than what's gonna be put on there right that moment.
Right.
Thank you, Mr. Ricker. I have a motion and a second to approve. Any further discussion? Hearing none, can we have a roll call vote, please?
You want me to do it? Huh? I'll get it. Okay. Jason Cavalier,
Approved.
Yakima Curitan,
I need more time. I'm not gonna, I have to abstain.
Pardon me?
I will abstain.
Judana Tinklenberg,
4.
Michelle Richards,
4.
Sheila Henson,
4.
Alan Patterson,
4.
Chairman Dees.
4. We have, motion is passed by a vote of 6
6 to
to
0,
0 with one abstention.
1 abstention.
This will go to county council for their consideration. You will be advised of the time and place of the meeting that it will be heard. Thank you.
Thank you.
You're welcome to stay or you're welcome to go, either as you decide.
All right, thank you so much.
You're welcome.
Guys have a good night.
Thank you.
Stay cool.
For ours.
If anybody else would like to take the chairs that they vacated, they're welcome to do so.
Okay, the next item is subdivision 2023-1869 Barberville Commercial. Excuse me, Mr. Hart.
Thank you, sir. This is an application, a second application for property on corner of Barberville and Highway 160, 12.09 acres located in the northwest corner of that intersection in order to create a multi-parcel commercial development with central shared access. An overview of the property, this is on both Fort Mill Highway and Barberville Road, 12.09 acres. The applicant is Moody Group on behalf of Martin Senior Associates and Barberville Developments LLC. The intent is to create a multi-parcel commercial development with central shared access, and the properties that are proposed for zoning are zoned, some are zoned general business and some are zoned neighborhood business. There is a split zone on the development tract because the two tracts are owned by two different partners, but they have to work together. The location photos, as we show on the screen, parcel off of Barberville Road and off of Fort Mill Highway. Most of the property is vacant. There are some older structures on the site that are proposed to come down with the development. When we look at development in areas, we also look at the comprehensive plan. The future land use map for this parcel is a growth area. Growth areas are intended to designate areas where growth should occur based on the availability of supportive infrastructure and land. These areas are intended to support suburban scale residential development along with supportive commercial development at major crossroads and along arterial streets and thoroughfares. By that description, this property fits in completely with the growth area. A recap from the June 18th Planning Commission meeting. The Planning Commission met and discussed the plat. The concerns expressed during the meeting included connectivity, traffic, lighting, and unaddressed TRC comments. So the Planning Commission denied application, vote 4-0. The applicant has done work to the plat and has resubmitted. There is no restriction on resubmittal for subdivisions as there is on rezonings. So we are back with updates to the plan, which I will go through piece by piece on the screen. The applicant worked all the way up to the last minute to get this done and turned in, and we as staff have reviewed it. I have one outstanding comment that we'll talk about at the end, and then the rest of them have been reviewed and certified. So one of the first comments is maximum block length for a road is 1,000 feet. Melanie Lane appeared to exceed this maximum. Melanie Lane is the proposed road going in this section. I'll take a break here and update the folks that weren't here at the last meeting. The two development tracks are on the corner and are working together on this project because the South Carolina DOT would not provide access off of Fort Mill Highway. There is not enough frontage on this property to provide adequate separation between the intersection and any particular any intersection or access point that provides primary access to this lot. So they were forced and or encouraged to connect to the property neighboring for a roadway to connect to Barberville. The intersection at the place where Melanie is, Barberville Lane, is across from an existing road. It is the only one that fits the code, is the only location that fits the code. And so that's why the location is where it is on that side. So the applicant having a proposed street of Melanie Lane, it's 985 feet measured from the center line, from Barberville Road to the center line of the fire truck turnaround. So that answers that question, but it is actually not 1,000 feet. When we are doing measurements, we're doing them on Adobe, using our best estimate. And if they're doing it on CAD, then we take the surveyor information because it's a higher grade of information. Okay? For connectivity, the minimum connectivity index allowed is 1.3. That connectivity index is an index we use to ensure that there are points and areas for folks to turn around in for connectivity. The primary place that you'll see a connectivity index truly used is in a neighborhood where we encourage more mid-block connections rather than dead ends. With this property not having an option to connect to Fort Mill Highway, it is limited to being a dead-end road. We measured it at 1.5 on the update. The applicant took that plus added in the section 6.4.1.d, which allows for an additional segment to be counted when pedestrian and bicycle connection is provided to another sidewalk, and brought the connectivity index up to 2. So they answered that. For the buffer discussion, the original notes said that a type B buffer would be required between properties where there's MDR zoning, and type C would be provided or required between other parcels on the property. We also needed buffers along the highway commercial commercial overlay corridor. For Fort Mill Highway, it is located in an overlay zone that adds additional requirements to any properties that are within 1,000 feet of this. This entire property is within 1,000 feet. So on those corridor frontages, they were required to have 25 feet. We did, when we re-reviewed, we went back and found that the type C buffer was an error in application of code. That in all, when you correctly apply the code, the type B buffer is required almost all the way around the property on the, looking at it from here on the north side or the top side, and on the right hand side or the east side. There is a small section of about 85 feet in width where the zoning for the frontage on Highway 160 is the same zoning as a parcel on there. So those two zones having the same parcel are not required to have a buffer between them. They're both zoned general business. But where the orange line is drawn out, that is the open space area around Barber Rock, going all the way around to the cul-de-sac and then back to the street. It is a common space owned by the Barber Rock neighborhood. For the yellow area, that is the highway corridor overlay buffer. It is a larger buffer. In particular, it goes along both Highway 160 and Highway 521. And that is required to be on those corridors. The applicant has taken it around the Barberville corridor as well, whereas the Barberville corridor is only required to have the type B, but we'll take the extra 5 feet on that and say thank you very much. For the sidewalks and pedestrian connections, the staff instructed the applicant to create an opportunity for a sidewalk connection to the neighboring cul-de-sac. We heard at the last meeting that the neighbors didn't want roads connecting to Oliver. We have connectivity goals in our comp plan, we have connectivity goals in our UDO, but there are opportunities at points where the connectivity can be made simply by a pedestrian path or a bikeway. And that is what has been proposed here. That is by staff's recommendation, and the applicant has followed through with that. In addition, there is a pedestrian connection to the sidewalk along highway, or the highway system, sidewalk system along, that would be along Highway 160. One of the things that we know that this will connect to is that the section on Highway 160 and Barberville, that frontage area, that is not in the mix right now for development in the next year. There will be opportunities for developers to buy it and develop it. With this on the plat, when you're approving the subdivision, that will require any future owners to install that as part of it, and it will be part of the review for any site planning for that. Currently, the applicant has 2 parcels that they are proposing to develop in the next year. It's the one that shows the building on the far right side near the pedestrian connection, and then a piece of property behind that. The rest of the parcels would be sold to developers at the time that they're interested and wish to develop. All of those parcels would have access to Melanie Lane, and all of those parcels would have a central stormwater system that uses the stormwater pond that's planned up against the open space. I don't have the ability to do that, but it's planned up against the open space near the left-hand pedestrian connection arrow. That would be a unified stormwater plan for all the parcels, rather than having a lot of little places along the way. The applicant did include in their comments that the connection that is proposed, the sidewalk connection that's proposed to the cul-de-sac at Oliver Terrace, would be subject to approval by the Barber Rock Barber Rock Subdivision Association, or HOA. We can force them to provide for it, but we can't force it to happen if the HOA says no. For interconnectivity between adjacent parcels is required. This is one of the rules that makes us, we require developers to provide stub outs to undeveloped adjacent properties that are developable. Again, most of the property is surrounded by the open space for Barber Rock, but that 85-foot shared parcel line at the interconnectivity point is a potential connection between that property and the adjacent general business zone property, so they did provide that stub out as requested. For the lighting plan, I've got 6 street lights on the property. It's very difficult to see on your plat because they're very small, which is why I put very big icons on the map where I identified the parcels. The lighting plan is proposed along the street with 6 street lights on the private road, and then the details for the lighting plan are on the side. This is on the second page of the updated exhibit. It's the same one that has the green space shown. So this has been provided. Final pole locations and photometric plans will be provided at the future date with the utility provider and the electrical engineer, in which case we will be reviewing those as well. So as these properties develop, we will review the lighting standards and make sure that they're met at the parcel line and within the parcel. For hydrants, all buildings must be within 500 feet of a fire hydrant measured as apparatus would lay hose along an approved fire apparatus road. Melanie Lane has been designed to be an approved fire apparatus road, and the applicant has provided proposed areas for new fire hydrants and maintaining 1 fire hydrant at the entrance point. This is the one where I don't have an official word yet from the fire marshal or Lancaster Water and Sewer about the placement. Lancaster Water and Sewer and the fire marshal work together on that, because the Water and Sewer Division obviously is the one that creates the water lines in the area, and the hydrant needs to be within 500 feet of a building. But what I did do is I measured all the proposed locations, and there are buildable spaces on each of the lots within 500 feet of each of those hydrants. At the time that any of these lots would come in for development of a building, the building would be required to be located within 500 feet of that hydrant. So the hydrants have been spaced so that each parcel would have that met. Additional comments, they've installed or proposing to install sidewalks on both sides of Melanie Lane as the UDO requires. The street tree plan was included. It is spaced evenly and all species are matching. The off-site improvements will be as per the South Carolina DOT requirements. Whatever the DOT says goes on those roads because they belong to the DOT. And then the Lancaster School District originally had the subdivision in a denial state. When I called to ask why, they said, aren't there houses? I said, no, this is commercial. And they said, oh, we thought all subdivisions were residential. So they removed their objection to this because there are no residences proposed in this. So with that said, with the amendments made from last month that specifically identified the TRC comments, the only one we don't have final approval on is the word from Fire Marshal and Lancaster Water and Sewer about the location of the hydrants, which can be relocated. It does not affect the subdivision lines, it affects the building paths. We recommend conditional approval.
Ms. Dingleberg.
Thank you, that's very thorough. I'm hoping some of my questions maybe have been answered. I know that we're looking at the entire site as a neighborhood, commercial neighborhood, while I realize only one parcel within that is being developed at this time. But knowing that we're having to look at the site in its entirety, I'm thinking specifically of the corridor overlay and that streetscape precedent in Appendix B of our UDO. I'm not seeing that on their site plan, so they will have a sidewalk also along 160 with the street trees.
Yes, so whoever purchases the properties that are on that corridor will be required to install that when they come forward.
Okay, so even though I'm not seeing it on this plan, that doesn't mean that won't happen?
Right. What we asked for was, they asked for the applicant to indicate that on the plat, and that's what that green line is. There in the plat also, there is a kind of a wavy line along the frontage of that indicates there's a 50-foot setback in the highway corridor overlay and a 25-foot buffer requirement, and then we will also require the infrastructure installation.
Okay, so while we're looking at the details of this one parcel, once we approve this, though, those other 8 parcels, they will not come across our table once we approve this.
Right, no, because, but they also are not exempt from any laws in the book. You know, subdivision only gives you the right to subdivide the property. Any development that happens after that has to meet all of the goals that we have in the UDO.
Okay, I think that I have to also mention, I mean, this is in my district. We just hashed this out over the last few months. It's appeared numerous times. I want to remind the commission that we voted unanimously against this just last month. I'm not seeing evidence that enough has changed to change my opinion of that. I still see major traffic concerns. I drive this every single day, and there already is not enough stacking linear feet of space for the current traffic, and this is cutting the stacking lane in half to allow a left turn lane into a site. It just doesn't make sense to me. Thinking of the vehicular circulation and knowing how fast the area is growing, if it's already a problem now before this is here, and all of the vacant parcels at this intersection, I think it's just a horrible idea with traffic. So I just want to point that out again. I think that's all I have. Thank you.
Anyone else have anything for staff? Mr. Patterson.
Ms. Harden, I
Yes,
just
sir.
want to clarify what I think I heard.
Okay.
So, if this is approved, then the buffers that are here would only be installed for this first parcel that's underway. So
The buffers at the end result, if all of these parcels are built out, the buffers will be constructed by the parcel owners as they go.
right.
For the properties that are there, at this point, we don't have a plan showing that they're taking down trees outside of the properties that are being developed now.
Right.
So for the areas that are wooded, they would stay wooded unless
Okay.
there is a need to do the grading plan, in which case that would happen. But any buffer in that area would be part of the grading plan. We would look for the retention of the trees in the buffer for that area until the development would happen.
Okay, so, and I think, my memory may be, bad, but if I recall correctly, one of the comments from a resident of the neighboring neighborhood was that there were some pretty substantial trees in place. So do we, when we're doing that assessment or whatever the process is, do we try to save the native substantial trees that are there to be a part of the buffer instead of just taking all the trees down and bringing them back with a evergreen canopy tree, one canopy, smaller stuff? I mean, is that a goal, or is it just wipe it out and then replant it? Because I mean, it's hard to get a 50, 75 foot tree,
No, you're right. It's a goal, it's not a requirement.
Okay.
So you'll have an opportunity to talk to the applicant
Yeah.
and ask for any additional buffers that you would like to see along
Okay.
that area where there's residential.
Yeah.
Because that's part of your purview is to ask for buffers if you'd like additional buffer.
Yeah.
You can also ask if they would retain the existing tree vegetation along the perimeter of the property during the grading process.
Right. Okay.
We had a developer at the council last night when was asked a very similar question, and he said it's much more financially beneficial to him to save the trees that are there rather than tear it all down and replant.
Right. Okay.
So that oftentimes developers will do that. Not always, not everyone.
Right. Okay. Thank you. Thank you, sir.
Okay.
One more time.
Okay, thank you. I have one other question. In looking back through the UDO and the corridor overlay specifications, it talks about the gross indoor area for buildings, and then it inducing the requirement for common open space and for that to be usable at the pedestrian level, and I don't see that on the plan. So I'm assuming once at the gross level, when all 8 parcels are built out, that would be over the 40,000 square feet. So,
Did I not have an open space slide in here? Let's start from
One's shown
there.
on the plan.
Oh, Jern, where did my open space slide go? Y'all, we downloaded it before I got my open space slide. All right, so I did a slide of open space and it fell out of the presentation. So let me go back and address that. Thank you for that. Open space requirement for this particular, for both these zones is 10% of the total development. The total development is right at 12, so you need to have 1.2 acres. They have 1.3 acres shown in open space. The open space for highway commercial overlay is allowed to be the buffer on the frontage as part of that, and it's allowed to be any area that has buffers and sidewalks as a benefit to the pedestrians that they have trees over the sidewalks. So those open spaces do count toward the open space criteria for usable. They also have a proposed pond or pool or pond for the stormwater, that if they add a trail around that, that would count as the open space, not the actual pond water itself, but anything that they would add around there would add for the open space.
Okay.
But as this shown in the green areas, that's 12% of open space for the entire development.
right, and I realize that calculation, when you add it up in AutoCAD, will generate to meet that minimum. But once they reach over 40,000 square feet, it's supposed to be improved common open space, meaning that it's functional and usable.
Right.
And it lists within that having, walls and foundation plantings and making it something more of a pocket park or along those lines. So I just want to make sure that that is on the plan.
That'll be part of the review that comes in as the development progresses. When we hit the maximum amount of square footage before you get to the pocket park discussion, we will look at ways to help them redesign that open space that they have to make it more useful.
Okay, I guess my struggle is that if we're not looking at it at the overall level, then one parcel just gets the short end of the stick and then also has to build a pocket park? Or am I misunderstanding how it's enacted?
No, the The site plan involves property or properties which may have more than 40,000 square feet of building space. A sketch will be required, which is where we are. I'm looking for that section of code. Do you have a code?
I have it. Hold on.
Is it 5B?
Yes,
Yep. There you go.
sidewalk and
Yep.
pedestrian amenities.
Yep. So they can achieve that by providing park benches along the sidewalk and other amenities within the buffers that are in that open space.
Okay.
And since it'll be accessible to pedestrians, landscaping, walls, walks, fences, paved fountains, statues, common lawns, greens, tables and chairs, benches, and other things. So what we can do in this process is get the attention of the overall development representatives who are here today and tell them that they need to plan ahead to look at
The designated area.
the designated open space. Yes, ma'am.
Thank you.
Thank you for that comment.
I have a question.
Yes, Ms. Richards.
Just because I'm new to the process, how does the cell tower area count into this? Because I'm assuming that'll have a fence around it and it's not accessible. Does that count towards the common open space or not?
No, it doesn't. It's
Okay.
not, the green areas around the edge are what counts toward the common open
Okay.
space. They have that additional pond area with that cell tower site on it.
Yeah.
It's not even counted as a part of
Okay.
that
I
12%.
guess that's just for my own
No, that's
information.
It's a good question. Good question. Really good question.
I got a question.
Yes, Mr.
On the north side of proposed building 1 here, looks like a significant fill slope being established. What controls are in place to water being pushed back into the parcels on the east side of Oliver Terrace here? Because there's no topo shown.
Right. That's part of the stormwater controls that'll be done by site. The stormwater division has purview of this area rather than DEC because it's an MS4 section. So we have a department that is charged with looking at that. They are looking at this entire thing so that the stormwater pond that's in that lot common area, which is just over an acre, that any stormwater that's being built for these sites will fill into that section going through the systems that go along the road.
Because then that's gonna really push into the buffer zone along the backside here if there's gonna be.
Yeah, there has to be a
construction.
buffer there.
Yeah.
So they don't have a choice here, there has to be some kind of a buffer. But the stormwater for this site will be channeled through, I think this is the process that goes through here. And it'll go through underneath the parking area and into the system that goes to the pond.
Just because as it's shown now, it's actually flowing to the north by the,
It shouldn't be, it should be tied into that. But we can make a note of that and make sure, because that site is already under review.
okay.
That's an even better question, sorry, Shelley.
That's okay. I was like, that's easily solved.
Water always wins.
I'm a certified
Yeah.
stormwater erosion control inspector, so yeah.
Unless you own this house that's on the downhill side.
Yeah.
That's me.
So I'm a certified floodplain manager, but I'm not an engineer. So I can
Right.
tell you in an open course where it's gonna go.
Yeah.
For this restructured site, I have to defer that to my stormwater department.
Is the applicant here?
Yes, I'm here.
Yeah, anything you'd like to offer, sir? Give us your name and address.
Don Argy, 418 Hinge Drive in Fort Mill, South Carolina. I'm here on behalf of Jan Ringling with the Moody Group. And, over the last month, we've taken the comments that we had from the last meeting and have addressed them with our resubmittal of the plat. I feel like we have adequately done so, and we're here to answer any questions. I also have a representative from our engineering team as well that can answer some of the more technical questions if needed.
All right. Thank you, sir.
Thank you.
One question for you.
Mr. Patterson.
Sorry, to get your name. So you heard my question to Ms. Harden about the buffer zones and, saving trees, established trees. Is that something that the applicant is willing to consider as they're developing the site, so the perimeters maintained, so their, residents are not seeing just a clear cut, and then the neighbors aren't dealt with just clear cut and then fresh trees planted? That's one question. And the second one, just concerned about, I know that you've got a lighting plan here, and just I would just ask you to be cognizant of that, to make sure there's down lighting, so that the lighting pollution is very minimized, for the neighbors from this commercial site. But if you could address that.
Okay.
May I ask?
Yes, I'm sorry.
So the regulation in this particular zone is that no more than a candle light of light can go off the property at the edge.
Okay.
And it is required to have down lighting.
Okay.
And we will have to measure that when, from the beginning, when the plan is approved, and
Yep.
then in the installation as well.
So they can't have lights on the side of the building that are shining out like
No.
security?
No.
Okay.
No,
All right. I'm just,
Thank you, sir.
but it's a good question.
I'm seeing the, I would not want to be one of these folks.
And one back there.
Okay, at this time, I'll call this into public hearing. And your name is called. Please rise, give your name and address for the record. You will have up to 3 minutes to make your comments to the planning commission as a whole, not to any one individual, and not to the audience. Don Harvey, you were just up. Do you want to get up again?
No, sir, I did want to add one more comment.
Yes, sir.
The developer, Jan, she, on previous projects, she always tries to save trees. So just to address your comment.
Thank you.
So, yeah.
Thank you. Robert Christener? Yes, sir.
Thank you, then. 6440 Ancient Way, which is on the backside of parcel 2. I got a couple of things I want to get
I'm
out.
sorry.
If I could.
Yeah, Mr. Chair, what is your last name?
Robert Christian. spelled with a
Christian?
faith, Yep.
Thank you.
And sorry, these are rabbit-eared. If I could pass those through for you.
Please.
Basically, what this is, this offers a little bit of context. There's a picture of. There's a slide you'll see in here in a few minutes that'll be included on somebody else's presentation.
have
But
that.
also a view from my backyard. And what it does is it speaks a little bit more to the topography. So I'm talking about the backyard of parcel 2. We're talking about water always
He
wins.
wants them to look at
That's one of my major concerns. So with this, we have a major rise from the level of the residences on Ancient Way up to the parcels. Now I know there's some plans in there to do earthwork and everything like that, but we have a current slope going up, a retaining wall, and then more of a slope that actually rises further up. And my concern is, even though there's a retention pond, even though there's going to be storm, water retention, is that water going to come off the backside, regardless of the way of what the earthwork is done? Is it going to pool in our residences down on Ancient Way? It's about a 35-foot rise that I'm looking at. So this new, if it stays the way it is, even at the top of the retaining wall, I'm going to be looking up and seeing it come down. And one of my reasons for concern about this is I actually lived this already. So I'm actually moved here from Greenville County. A very similar thing happened. I had about a 10 to 15-foot retaining wall that kind of sloped down behind my residence. Structures were built. They said, hey, you have nothing to worry about, everything's good. And lo and behold, there was a corner of that retaining wall, water busted through, and every time it rained, even a good thunderstorm, I had a lake of standing water in my backyard. Mosquitoes, we had to spend thousands of dollars on a French drain. And unfortunately, as I see this, I kind of, that bad dream is coming back, and I get very concerned. So I guess what I'm asking is the discussion of native vegetation. My concern is if we're adding a bunch of non-permeable asphalt concrete structures that can't absorb that water, are we going to have, I'm sure most of it will flow down to the pond, I get that. But are we going to have some that comes down and floods the back of our residence as well? I mean, we already have, on a heavy rain, we already have standing water that sits around for about 35, 40 minutes to an hour. What's going to happen after this is cleared up? Thank you.
Okay, thank you, sir. Chuck Anthony?
Yes, hi. Chuck Anthony, 6401 Ancient Way, Indian Land. Thank you, Chairman Dees. So in my day job, I'm an environmental attorney, but I'm not representing one today. I'm here on my own behalf. I'm just slightly off the map there to the west. I was excited when I first heard about this project because I was thinking, some new businesses drive by there every day. Maybe they'll be something I want to use. I'm still excited about it, but I think it needs to be carefully planned out and considered, and I don't know that we're there yet. In my day-to-day job, I'm part of proceedings like this all the time, getting permits. I make sure that I have everything done and people can review it, especially where there's going to be something called a public hearing, right? It's not fair to the public to put everything in, the evening before, doesn't even get posted to the agency webpage. There's no chance to review it. We submitted, some of my neighbors and I submitted a letter last night to you all with some comments. A lot of that seems to be irrelevant, or, I mean, I think the spirit of it is still relevant, but some of the specific comments have been addressed by documents that we never got to see, so I don't know how we're supposed to review and comment on those, which makes me wonder whether this even meets the spirit of the requirements of the public hearing from a legal sense. But nonetheless, I also have concerns about, what that says about the developer, and I don't know these people, I'm sure they're great people, but, to throw everything in at the last minute, just to me, it doesn't seem right. It draws into question, are you doing it by the book, are you doing it the right way, or are you trying to slip something through at the last hour that nobody gets to look at? It looks, and great job looking at it the last hour, by the way.
Well, this last hour because I took a week into getting any comments. So.
There you go. But I do want to highlight two key issues. My neighbor already touched on one, the topography. So before I went to law school, I studied geology. So I know how to look at topography and think about problems that are going to happen. You start moving dirt around to make this level and build buildings. Where he lives, he's talking about the steep slope that's already there. Well, you move the dirt from the right side of the picture to the left side of the picture to make it level. Now you're adding a bunch of weight, including a stormwater pond, which we just learned about today at this meeting, that's going to be adding all kinds of weight there. And have we studied the pressures? There is no retaining wall there. That's like a ravine going to an intermittent stream that was labeled on the last plat, but I don't see it on this one.
It's on exhibit 1.
What's that?
It's on the first page.
Yeah. So my kids play in a backyard downstream from this. Is there a bunch of water in it that's going to break? I mean, how's it going to be developed? So that's a concern. Other concern is, in the UDO it talks about uses, and I think it's on the checklist too that the applicant filled out. There really is no information here about uses. It sounds like we don't know what the use will be because they're going to sell these off one by one. I mean, this is a residential neighborhood next door. Like I said, I'm excited about this. I hope it's things that I like to go to and use, but I'm worried it may not be. What if it's something that brings, what if it's a bar that's open until 2 in the morning, and now you're proposing to have a sidewalk going into a residential, cul-de-sac. When I was in college and I went to bars a lot, if there was a parking spot in a cul-de-sac that was easier to park in than the spot, around the bar, I would go park there and walk, and we made it easy. Now there's a sidewalk. So, what people are going to be coming through the neighborhood at what hour of night, what noise, what other problems are they going to bring? So, I hope this goes forward. I hope it works out, but I also hope these people sitting on the other side of the room will talk to us about it and try to make it work for them, but also work for us, because we have to live there. I mean, they're going to develop it and move on to the next one, but we still have to live there. So, thank you.
Thank you, sir. Janine Clifton.
Hi, thank you very much. Janine Clifton, 2023 Oliver Terrace, and I am the first home off the cul-de-sac. So I do, if you don't mind, have a few things I can share.
Sure. I'll distribute them for you.
Sorry. So I think you all know we had an nth hour set of information. I've tried to make some adjustments. I'm a visual person, so a picture's worth 1,000 words. I do have some facts for you about their planned learning center. I did do my best to compare it to the one just up the street on Providence Road West. And one of the concerns that I have, if you just look at it for comparative purposes, that plot for the same size building, for the same square footage, their drawings indicate 29 parking spaces are in the 20s. And the one on Providence Road West, the exact same size, is 44. So now I'm hearing today they're going to do a sidewalk connector, and guess where all those parents are parking? They're going to park in our cul-de-sac. They're going to walk to little daycare every day. And so, and if we hear the conversations that are being had about the concerns on traffic, they're not going to want to go drive through there. They're going to want to go up the road a little bit further where it's a lot easier and kind of go through our neighborhood, which is a private street road. We are responsible for paying that. The city doesn't manage it. So I truly ask that you consider that. The other red flag for me today, as this conversation is unfolded, it appears we're given more substance to green space that is abutting Barberville and Fort Mill Highway than we are for the residents in the neighborhood. I mean, look at those buffers just from the pictures you see up there. I mean, it's really not thinking about the neighbors. And I know and I respect what the code says, but I've made over $500,000 investment. It's not trivial. The photographs that you have, which is really this picture, is a picture of the cul-de-sac. I overlaid what one of those schools looked like. I overlaid its parking lot. That's what I'm gonna walk out and see every day, because Jan is not here to defend herself. I had a personal phone call with Jan. Jan clearly told me, they're greenfielding it, all the trees have gone down so they can do the dirt work, and this is what I will look at every day. Think of that. My house is worth over $500,000. And this is what I drive to and look through every day. So I really am pleading with you to think about, you know, what we made investments in as county residents. And I'm not the only house here. I did choose to speak on behalf of all the residents who are in the neighborhood and abut the cul-de-sac. I just happen to be that first house. So I will see it every day. Every day we go to, every resident who goes to the mailbox, which is 60% of the neighborhood, will walk to this cul-de-sac that looks like this. And this is inconsistent with any other neighborhood development. Providence Road West is not like this. Rock Hill is not like this. I can go through all the learning experiences in this city and not one connects. So if I just think of that one little parcel, which connects to us, that's what's important to me. So I thank you for your time. You have 1 million pictures from me. I hope they're worth the 1,000 words that I intended them to be.
Thank you. Jeff Larson.
I wanted to bring this in so you can see the quote.
It was Jeff Larson.
Jeff Larson, Geoff, Larson.
G-E.
Yes. This, I understand that the plat has been updated slightly, but this is what was submitted and what my initial comments about this are based on, at least. I'm Jeff Larson. Thank you for giving me a couple minutes to speak, commissioners. I live on Oliver Terrace on the cul-de-sac. I'm the third house over, about 100 feet from the proposed development, which came as a complete surprise to me because I just found out about it last week. When I discovered that the random person who was trespassing on my backyard last fall was someone surveying for this development. That ribbon is still tied to my fence, and yet to this day, I've had no communication whatsoever about what was going on. I'm honestly a bit confused though about some of the oversights in this project plan. For example, parcel 5, after the required buffers and the proposed road connecting through, this parcel is only about 40 feet wide, less than a quarter acre, only doing an overlay right there. That is the entirety of the space on parcel 5 that could be developed. No one's going to buy that lot, and you can't erect a commercial building. And we're actually, I have concerns. How do we know that there's actually an intent to follow through with the required road connection to Highway 160 if that's the case? Instead, everybody's going to go onto Barberville, which is a completely blind intersection from just a couple hundred feet away. I'm 6 foot tall and I cannot see the top of a car that's coming right over that crest of the hill where the road turning to Barberville is. Noise and light pollution though, if this project goes forward as proposed, the natural elements next to us will be obliterated. I'll be able to look out of my loft window. I'm sorry I didn't bring a picture of it, but I took one earlier and I can show you one-on-one. Directly into their daycare, into their play yard, into their parking lot, into the lot next to them, into the lot next to that, and straight into 4 Mill Highway. Direct, that's a quarter mile away, straight through what is currently 100-foot tall old growth trees. There are 2 pictures show none of that. It's just the field. We live next to a forest of old growth. That's what we're here to protect. We want more buffer. We want type C equivalent or better. Maintain what's there. Anyway, and please ensure that that existing forest is maintained. This is proposal squeezing too much into too little at too much of a cost to us. But there's other oversights. There's parcels with no underground drainage contemplated. There's inaccurate and inconsistent parcel IDs labeled. This right here, and this right here, and this over here, all the same parcel. That's a different parcel ID. You can go on the GIS and see that pretty easily. That's an easy oversight. But the real kicker is my house right here, which they have labeled as, despite trespassing last fall to do their assessment, they mislabeled that as the outdoor play area for their proposed daycare. That got signed off and submitted. That's not doing due diligence. And it's clearly not part of their development. That might have been corrected on updated plats, but the fact that that got through shows how much effort's going into this. And as a neighbor directly affected, I feel like, personally, it's just getting phoned in. Now, in their job, I get it. They're going to come in, they're going to clear it out, tear it down, pave it over, move on to the next job. But whatever does end up getting built, and I fully understand that something will get built here, and that is okay. But how it is getting built matters. We have to live with that. We have to live with that every day. So I ask that you today please deny this application. It's not ready, it's not realistic, and approving it just wouldn't be the responsible thing to do. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Wilson. And Gabe?
Can you leave that open?
Yes.
Can you leave that open? Do they have mine?
Yes, you can show them your handout.
Well,
Yeah.
Ann Gable's, correct? Ann Gable, 2002 Oliver Terrace. This is my home, right here, right next to all of this. So, because I couldn't do a PowerPoint, I have these, and if you follow along. According to this proposal, the developer states that they are not keeping any of the mature trees. See page 4 of their application where it says tree retention, NA, trees that require protection, NA. The subdivision does not have the minimum 30 to 50 foot buffer between the property line of overlook homes and their property as discussed in the last meeting. The property line from my home to their property line is 7.5 feet, as you can see by the photos of my house and the property line plat that when I got my fence. The daycare is planned to be set back on the property 20 feet from the property line, but there is no natural barrier retained. The developer intends to bulldoze all the trees on the property so they can develop 9 parcels on these 2 plots. This approach places commercial development immediately abutting residential with only light grass and plantings, as far as we knew until about 3 o'clock today when we were made aware of the revisions. This is inconsistent with other commercial developments next to the residential in the immediate area. If you just go down Highway 160, if you look at the one circle A, this is our development, this is the proposal, this is a commercial development. Circled in red is the commercial development, which includes Napa Auto Parts, Names in a Hurry, Good Time Beverages, etc. It's a strip mall that has direct access only in and out onto 160, but there's a good amount of natural trees located to divide the commercial and residential, which abuts to Ancient Way, Kingswood Circle, Hope Run Court, etc. They've already dealt with massive flooding issues in the past 2 years in the back of this property. With the natural trees, I can only imagine removing this, how much more is going to incur. If you go to the next page B, is York Technical Campus near the Rosemont Residential Development on 160. It's set back far enough from the development and there's a natural tree barrier between them and the newly built Stanley Martin Townhomes at Rose Glen across from Empire Pizza. Even the new development that's being built on the other side of Empire Pizza, they're leaving existing tree barriers. To the next page, C. 160 and 521, the Patterson Avenue apartments were built with an existing tree buffer between Tyndall Furniture and VCA Indialand Hospital. On D, this shows the learning experience a few miles down the road on the Providence West, and they also have the natural tree barriers separating from themselves to the neighborhood. Again, as you can see on E, this is my home. It's right there. This development is too close to a residential neighborhood. It should be moved in further away so there is a buffer to the area. And that's what we're looking at in F. If nothing else, if you just leave a good amount of buffer so there is some sort of separation for security and privacy, things like that, that's what we are asking for.
The developer has not reached out to the residents of the neighborhood indirectly or directly affected, and we do not see if anything has changed in the last proposal. There's a definite issue of privacy, security, and upcoming erosion issues with this current plan. How about reducing the amount of parcels to be built from 9 to say 5 and 6, and use the existing mature trees around the development to separate it from the neighborhood as the common area required instead of a small section designated as common area by the existing street and wetland? Thank you.
Thank you. Shannon Hankins.
You're good? Yep. I'm gonna need you, I will hand you my time.
Okay.
We don't have
No.
the process to do
You don't
that.
do that?
You don't do that.
Awesome. Then I will just speak quickly on behalf. My name is Shannon Hankinson, 6'4".
Sorry, the last name is?
Hankinson, Hankinson. Address is 6408 Ancient Way. We are lucky enough to be the property that has the easement that hosts the public sewer line. So we are definitely concerned about flooding, erosion, and all of the things that our neighbors have already shared. So I won't go on about that. We also had surveyors enter our property and place little pink ribbons on our fence. We have animals. And up and down our driveway, we have them on camera. We support the development wholeheartedly, but we really implore better communication and transparency, because at this state with last minute changes, this is not good business, and this isn't good for the neighborhood, and it's not showing good faith to the community. So we appreciate your time. Thank you.
Thank you. Brittany Bowers.
Hi, I'm Brittany Bowers, BOWERS. I am at 8539 Hope Run Court, which you can't see on the map, but I am the lowest property in all of the neighborhood of Overlook at Barber Rock. So I didn't have a chance to send any video, but I do have plenty of video and pictures of flooding that we've already experienced. We're right in front of Sugar Creek, so our property backs up to Sugar Creek, and every time it rains heavy, we get all of the drainage that's coming from Ancient Way on down and drainage from the retention ponds. We had about 15 to 20 feet of water that flooded in our backyard last year when we had heavy rains. That was there for 2 days. Stormwater management is aware of this. They came, told me it should never happen, but unfortunately, because the flood line happens to run through my backyard, there's nothing that they can do. My concern is that if drainage isn't properly addressed with this new property or this new development, that all of that extra water from the higher level properties could end up in my backyard and reach my home. Anything to add?
Thank you. Saul Lopez Jr. has signed up, but I think he's already left.
He was
the
here.
house.
Yeah, that was Mr.
Yeah.
Lopez.
So that's all that is signed to speak to this. So we will consider ourselves out of public hearing at this time. Commissioners, you have before you subdivision 2023-1869 Barberville Commercial. Do I hear a motion?
Mr. Chair, in the interest of getting a motion in the affirmative on the table, I move to approve.
I have a motion to approve. Patterson,
A second.
second. Ms. Tinklingsburg. Discussion? Ms. Tinklingsburg.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I think I just want to recap what's previously been said. I don't want to spend a lot of time. I think it's very obvious how the neighbors and adjacent property owners feel, and their very important concerns regarding the development of this site. I've worked for a long time in the past, and it is important that developers start from the beginning with a good relationship with property owners. It sets good faith and trust and transparency is important. Not knowing a lot of the details or having the access to information is not starting on a good note, and so that does cause distrust in how this project will move forward through construction, especially knowing there's also 2 different owners, and then there's out parcels that are going to be sold off and then developed separately. I have concerns that a lot of, while there's good intentions on this plan to follow through with some of the things we've discussed with the buffers and the corridor overlays and the streetscapes and all of that is great. But if parcel 5 doesn't get built, then will that happen? I just have too many concerns. I'm also very concerned about the traffic, as I've already noted, and for those reasons, I cannot support this project.
Anyone else?
I think a mass grading on this is going to create stormwater issues. I also don't see anything indicative in some areas that's going to protect the homeowners who have voiced their concerns. And even then, the preliminary plan here is encroaching into or outside of the actual parcel lines just from a preliminary point that it doesn't fit. So I don't see how it's supportable either.
Anyone else? Richard?
I agree with both of them. I drive through this area regularly. I'm a registered professional civil engineer. I do work with this all the time, but the traffic in this area is already horrendous. I've had to come down Barberville Road to go into the job sites and try to get on 160, and it takes you 15 minutes at 2 o'clock in the afternoon to get through here. So I know they have to meet DOT requirements. You got to be so far back, but and I agree a lot with when I look at these civil plans. Like I said, I was also a certified sedimentation erosion control inspector. I see lots of things on this that just don't give me a warm fuzzy feeling.
Okay. Mr. Patterson.
First, I just want to say thank you to all the homeowners. It matters. It really does. Secondly, if this doesn't pass, I would strongly suggest the applicant schedule a meeting with the homeowners, the adjacent property owners, to open up communication. I know we can't require it. It's just a suggestion to try to put a little bit of balm on some of the pain. Really concerned. I think lighting, I'm satisfied with that, light pollution, but the damage or the impact that the topo change between this development and the homeowners, it's to me, it's bored. I'm not an engineer. I'm just a guy that's looking at a plan, but it looks reckless and irresponsible to me. And so, I can't support it.
Okay. Anyone else?
I do have a point of order before any more conversation goes on. And I'm going to be a very unpopular person for the next 5 minutes.
You go right ahead.
So I need to say this. We have all heard what the neighbors say. Absolutely. And I'm a homeowner, I understand the concerns. The Planning Commission has to review the plans, and if you say no, you have to be able to tie it to a piece of the code. We don't have a piece of the code that this is not meeting at this time, or doesn't have the potential to meet. While I understand the concern about old growth trees and missing a view of trees, the property owner that owns the trees has rights as well. You have the right as a planning commission to ask for additional buffers as part of the subdivision. If you say no to this subdivision, it can come back with development with or without your permission. It can be developed as is with or without your permission. The subdivision is what you're reviewing. The development rights are on property currently. This is a by right use. The neighborhood business zone and the general business zone that cover these two properties, there's a full list of what those uses are. Any of those uses can go on this property with or without the subdivision. That is not up for debate. If you have questions about the engineering of the site, the engineer for the applicant is here. If you are willing to listen to him and ask him questions, you're welcome to do so. Because each of these properties, either whether it's subdivided or not, when the development occurs, will be reviewed by staff based on the codes that we have in place. The only way you have to make it better is to talk to the developer now and ask him for extra stuff with the subdivision application and approval. But if you say no, you've lost any leverage.
So if they can do what they want to do without, why are we even here?
It's not, okay, so they can't do everything they want to do. They
Right.
can build.
Yep,
They cannot build on multiple lots without you approving the lots.
correct.
They can turn around, if you say no, they can turn around tomorrow and apply for a larger development that has nothing but parking lot and retail. Because that's what's allowed in the zone.
Right.
That's what's been allowed on this property since before Barber Rock got there.
But there's something on this subdivision, if I remember correctly, it's 2 owners, and they had to have connectivity.
They had to have a
because
connection.
they didn't have to have.
They
so
had to
they
have a
can't
connection.
necessarily.
What they can't do is draw those lines the way that it's shown there.
Right.
They can absolutely develop.
Yes, sir.
Right.
They can't draw the lines that's there. They
Right.
can absolutely create that road,
Yep.
but they can't draw those subdivision lines there.
Right.
You understand that?
Yeah.
I don't mean to, I'm sorry, I'm used to talking to my husband, I apologize.
Well, I'm a husband. You can trust me. You got to dumb it down.
No,
Because this is a thick head too.
So to go back to the beginning of the discussion of this property, when they first came to you, they said, we thought we could do this under minor amendments. And we required them to come through because the street that was going between the two, and because they had more lots than what they could do individually. If the first property had been allowed an access off 160, we would not be here.
Right.
This would be developed as minor subdivisions on either side, and the development would be happening without the hearing, because
Okay.
it's by right.
Right.
The need to connect those two with that road for the purpose of subdivision is why we are here. Okay?
Yes.
So the law is that minor subdivisions are, if you've got 4 lots or less.
5 or fewer.
I'm sorry.
Sorry.
Then you don't have to come to the planning commission. Okay? That's what they were hoping to do, but they ended up with more lots.
Right.
And without access to the front.
So it's a major subdivision.
So now it's major subdivision. They can take that road without the lot lines and create a strip center on the frontage of 160. They can take that development tract up against the backside and whatever is allowed in that zone and create that as well right now.
Right.
The parcel lots that they want to do, that is the only thing that's holding them here with you.
Right.
So if they wanted to go in and create a horizontal property regime and
Which
create
is-
lease lines, which is
Right.
not subdivision, they would be able to do what's on that as well. It takes a lot more work, it takes a lot more paperwork, and it is a very big headache,
Right.
but it's doable. So you have one opportunity here to make any changes to this, to ask them to do a stronger buffer against the neighborhood section. You can ask them, you can talk to their engineer about what they're going to do about that slope in particular where the houses are. You have a lot of opportunities that are not being taken here. And if you would like to just continue on with the vote, there's absolutely, I'm not gonna tell you one way or the other.
Right.
But
So-
I think you need to understand that if you turn it down, there needs to be a section of the code you turn it down based on. Otherwise, you're giving the applicant an opportunity to bring the county to a court, to bring the planning commission to court.
So, from my understanding, I mean, if that's the case, then why would they resubmit in a month? Why not just do what they wanted to do? I mean, we turned it down last
Because
month.
we told them that they could not do the minor subdivisions because there was no
I mean,
access
from the last,
available.
it was a major subdivision last month when we did that.
Yes, and they
And then
have
they
made
came back.
amendments to it to
Right.
answer the concerns that staff had. When you turned it down last month, staff had concerns that were not answered.
Right.
And those were the list of things that you could put your finger on in the code
Right.
and say, this doesn't meet that.
Mm-hmm.
Staff doesn't have anything left that says it
Okay.
doesn't meet that.
Right.
So I don't have anything to offer you as a foothold for a denial
Okay,
legally.
right. Okay.
So can I ask a question then, on the staff recommendation, does that mean that the conditions that you? or
The one
that-
condition that I have up here
Uh-huh.
is the new one, is that the fire marshal says yes. The fire marshal, 99.9% of the time, says yes. The 1.1% of the time, he says, move it here, and then I'll say yes. We have a long history in this planning commission accepting that the fire marshal will have purview over that review at a later date within a 60-day window called conditional approval that we have extended to other, that y'all have extended to other developers. That has been the practice here.
May I ask
So
my
this
question a
staff
different way?
report-
This has
okay.
been answered.
Yes.
Okay.
So the staff report that you received in your packet had a lot of comments that said applicant is working on it and we'll get you an amended one. I emailed you the amended version as soon as I had an opportunity to review it and double check it and make sure that all my Ts are crossed and my Is are dotted.
Okay.
That's this if you want to look at it.
Well said, Ms. Horton. You okay?
Yes, can I ask the engineer a question? Okay, so.
If the engineer would
Hi,
stand
Mr.
up and give us his
Engineer. Thank you
name
for
and
being
address
here.
for the record.
I'm Matthew Birmingham. I'm with Oak Engineering. My address is 2805 Burkill Lane, Indiana, South Carolina.
Ms. Carrigan, you can ask.
Okay, so you've heard all of the neighbors express their concerns about the topography and the stormwater drainage. So what is it that you all are prepared to do to ensure that their houses don't end up underwater?
So we do, in our engineering design, we try to keep as much of the stormwater going to the design pond as possible. For the purposes of this design, all of the impervious, parking, buildings, everything